So in this last year, I've had a little bit more free time than I did in the years previous to this one. I still have plenty of responsibilities. However, I have had plenty of time to be able to enjoy myself in my leisure time and try to get the most out of life. Of course, I amped up how much I was reading in my extra time, but at times it started to feel like reading was no longer doing the same thing for me that it had in the past. So today I'm going to talk about reading as an activity. This video is mainly targeted at people who read as one of their primary hobbies, but it could still be interesting to watch even if that is not the case for you. If you read a lot of the same types of books for a long time, or if you consistently read in the same way, there is a possibility that you might enter what everyone calls a reading slump, but it could also just be a period of time where reading is not doing what it needs to for you in order to take advantage of your free time and just have an enriching life. So in this video, we are going to look at some of the ideas from Canadian sociologist Robert A. Stebbins, and we're going to talk about what makes our leisure time meaningful and how does it make life worth living. And if you are using your leisure time in a more passive way, it might be time to start using that time a little bit more actively or seriously, not to make you a better person or better than other people, but just to make your own personal life more fulfilling. Of course, not everyone has a lot of leisure time, and I do not want to undermine how hard life can be if you're going through a period of time where something is expected from you every single hour of every single day. If you are at a point in life, no matter what stage that might be in, where you have a few extra hours to use for yourself every day, there is just a way to use it that seems to be more fulfilling than other ways. So we're just going to talk about that and talk about how reading ties into it. Serious leisure. So for this, we're going to look at Robert A. Stebbins' article that he wrote in the Pacific Sociological Review in the April 1982 volume. I will link it down in the description if you want to read it yourself. You do have to have a JSTOR account to read it, but that is free as far as I know for so many articles. So you can read it if you want to. But basically, he spends the article talking about how we spend our leisure time and takes the time to distinguish between more passive or casual leisure, like watching TV, where you are just consuming something and not really actively doing anything, and what he considers serious leisure, which is when you are somehow involved in how you spend your free time and become a little bit more of an active amateur, hobbyist, or volunteer are the three categories he gives for what he considers serious leisure. He begins this article by saying serious leisure sounds very weird to a lot of people, especially when we're talking about a culture that mainly focuses on leisure for relaxation or decompressing, which, to be fair, is also important, but maybe not the only way to spend our leisure. He then tries to contextualize this information about the difference between casual and serious leisure by talking about a lot of different academics in the time period who predicted that soon we would have shorter work weeks and shorter work days, and we would have more time to devote to leisure, and we would need to be able to get more meaning out of life in our free time. Of course, in 2025, most of us, at least Americans, are still working full 5-day work weeks and still do work 9-to-5 type jobs. But even though this prediction did not immediately become true from the sociologists of the 1980s, that doesn't mean that it couldn't become true later for us, especially with the use and implementation of AI. We don't really know the future, and we don't know if we will always have the same amount of free time, or if maybe we'll be handed a lot more soon. So I think that context still sort of makes sense, even though the prediction didn't exactly come true. After contextualizing it, he does go on to make the claim that an individual's life seems to be more fulfilling if they engage in a serious form of leisure instead of passively engaging in whatever they like. As I mentioned, he talked about 3 different types of people: the amateur, who, from what I could tell, is close to a professional in whatever they try to do, and they do try to meet those standards, and they take what they're doing very seriously. The hobbyist, who just spends a lot of time on a certain hobby, but does it in a very dedicated and continual way where they have some sort of goal, albeit that term can be used a little bit loosely. And the volunteer, who will go out into the community and actively sort of work in their free time as leisure to help their community and do different things. There's definitely a lot more nuance to those 3 things than what I just said, and you can read the article if you want the details, but I want to read a couple quotes to just try to distinguish this casual leisure from the serious leisure, at least through the eyes of Robert A. Stebbins. The first quote I'm going to read says, "One quality of serious leisure, distinguishing it from unserious forms, is the occasional need to persevere at it. Despite participants' generally pleasant memory of such activity, there are moments when they suffer stage fright, embarrassment, freezing cold, anxiety, fatigue, and injury, and other strains. Still, it is clear that the positive feelings about the activity come, to some extent, from sticking with it through thick and thin, through conquering adversity." This does demonstrate that at times his form of what he would define as serious leisure does feel like work. It does feel like you are accomplishing something, like you're doing something. And there might be moments, even if it's activity that you choose to do, not for monetary compensation, but for personal passion, where you might want to put it down and take a break, because it does actually engage you and who you are and your person enough to be exhausting. You're not going to have that sort of exhaustion from watching your favorite TV show, but you might get that sort of exhaustion from really trying to, improve your golf game. Within his article, Stebbins does outline durable benefits of participating in some form of active leisure, and then he does kind of talk about some of those in this quote, which I will read now. It says, "Participants in serious leisure tend to identify strongly with their chosen pursuits. They are inclined to speak proudly, excitedly, and frequently about them to other people, and to present themselves in terms of them when conversing with new acquaintances. Research on amateurs indicates they realize they are sometimes too enthusiastic about their avocations when discussing them with others. By contrast, unserious leisure, though hardly humiliating or despicable, is nonetheless too fleeting, mundane, and commonplace for most people to find a distinctive identity in it." One thing that is kind of discussed in this quote, but also in the rest of the article, is that taking your leisure time seriously, where you choose to just do something that you really love and be actively engaged with it, meaning you yourself are doing something with it, does give you a sense of identity and even a sense of belonging within the group, to the point where this quote says that you might seem a little weird to everyday people when you go up to them and talk about what you're so passionate about. You talk about how you spend your leisure time, your hobby, and it could even be embarrassing at times how strongly you advocate for it. But there is still something good in that. There is something good in being passionate about something that you choose to do just for you, that you aren't being told to do by someone else. And while watching your favorite TV show, given that it's not something really strange, might not ever be embarrassing or give you that feeling like being too passionate about your hobby, it's still not doing the same thing for you that being actively involved in something does. Is reading serious? There has been a lot of conversation over the last few years about reading, especially as within my country, the United States, rates of adult reading are declining, and even literacy is declining as well, meaning that some people are not able to read even above a 6th grade level. And all of that is very concerning, and of course brings up lots of topics about the importance of reading and everything reading does for your brain, which is all true. At the same time, a lot of people will argue that reading is a little bit more of a passive hobby. You are picking up a book and reading what someone else wrote on the page, and it's not really something that you yourself are doing other than the process of actually reading. And in that sense, it could be compared to watching TV. In fact, in some studies, when they try to talk about if basically senior adults are engaging enough in active hobbies or if they're engaging more in passive hobbies, reading is generally put on the passive side of the scale. Of course, some of that has to do with physical activity because being physically active is also good for you as you age, and well, it's good for me now even though I don't do it enough. Regardless, it could definitely be argued that reading is passive. In the 1982 article that I mentioned, Stebbins does mention reading, and he mentions it under the hobbyist category of his 3 categories, and he says that a hobbyist could definitely be someone who is reading with a goal in mind, doing a deep dive in a genre. He gives examples like someone who is really learning everything they can about science or everything they can about history. They're taking reading and using it in an active pursuit of knowledge that they have chosen for themselves, and that can give someone a lot of purpose and a lot of joy. Most online reading content focuses on getting people to read at all, and that is a very important goal because you are better off as a reader, and as a society, we are better off if we have more readers within society, people who can look at other people's perspectives. That being said, there can be something missing out of your own personal reading journey if your only goal in life is to read a book and you don't really have a deeper purpose behind your reading. You can get to the point where, like me, I felt after a while that it was becoming a little bit of a passive hobby, that I was just reading book after book after book that had been hyped online, and I was losing some of the richness that I had enjoyed in earlier years. So let's talk about how maybe you can get over that little bit of a reading slump and make reading a little bit more richer if you are starting to feel a little bit burnt out just by reading itself. Making reading serious. In recent years, there has definitely been a communal attempt to make reading a little bit more of an active hobby. There are an increasing amount of people who are starting to identify as readers and talk about reading as being a primary hobby and engage with it online as if it is a primary hobby for them, like probably most of you watching this video. With this comes a lot of reader-specific things, like tracking how many books you read a year, keeping track of your reading stats, entering sort of challenges. There's been challenges before where it was like, I went to the store looking for a book that started with a K and had an animal on it. Like, challenges like that exist a lot in the reading community. And all of these practices do kind of make it easy to make reading a hobby where you're not only actively engaged because you have a goal, but you're talking to other people. That being said, this form of active reading did not really work for me because it changed my incentives for which books I picked up, and it just kind of distorted what I was doing, and I did not like the reading goal and trying to read so many books in a year, and that form of the community just didn't work for me, even though I can appreciate it working for other people. Now, I'm not going to put it down, though, because if I think about what Robert H. Stebbins is saying about becoming actively engaged in your hobby, I would say people who do these things are working to make themselves actively engaged in a hobby that could be called passive. When you talk about persistence, the people who have a reading goal or have some sort of challenge that they're doing communally with other people will say things like, oh, I don't feel like reading today, but I need to make sure I read a book by the end of the week so I can hit my reading goal. With that quote that talked about perseverance, this definitely counts, and it gives you something to aspire to and to work towards and to feel like you're accomplishing, and when you're done, you can say, I did it, and that is very good for you as far as how you feel about yourself. I just think that there's other ways as well to make reading active and to make it something that you feel like you're engaging with outside of that framework that we have been seeing for the last couple of years that does not personally work for me. I obviously decided to start a YouTube channel to talk about books and sort of organize my ideas and communicate with all of you, which has made my reading a very active thing where I am doing something that is sort of towards a goal. It's a loose goal. It's fun to grow a channel and to organize your thoughts. And as I'm reading, I think about what I'm reading a lot more deeply, because sometimes I think, oh, what could I say about this and what opinions do I have on this? And that alone makes my reading life a lot more meaningful, because I know that I am doing something with it. You do not need to be public to become an active reader or to have reading as a serious leisure hobby, as Robert H. Stebbins would say. You could start a reading journal. Now, I'm not a big fan of the pre-made reading journals because my thoughts never fit in boxes, but having just a plain notebook with a pen or pencil where you jot down thoughts and actually engage with the author, or if you prefer to directly annotate on the book, can make reading a lot more of a serious leisure activity where you are engaging with the author and the thoughts that are within the book. This next one is going to sound a lot like what I was just saying I don't like as much, even though it can be good for people, but creating your own personal reading projects can be really fun as well. And this is different from like the buying a book that starts with a K with an animal on the cover, even though that could be really fun for some people as well. But it's about choosing a reading project that is something that you're passionate about and you want to learn everything about. This could easily be a nonfiction project where you're learning everything that you could possibly learn about, I don't know, I think this one's mushrooms. Or it could be a project where you read all of the sword and sorcery fantasy books from the 1980s to see what defines the genre and why that genre was so appealing for the people who read it. It could be whatever you want because there are no rules and it's a hobby, but having some sort of personal reading project guided by your own passions can also be a really fun way to make reading active and serious to get those benefits from being actively involved in what you're doing. Another one that I can think of is starting a blog or some sort of written format for reviews or just talking about your thoughts on reading and books. And I have said in a previous video that there seems to be in our culture right now a necessity to try to monetize everything you ever do for a hobby. So people will start a blog and then they won't get as many, people viewing their blog as they expected. And some people will take that as a sign of discouragement and stop writing. But you have to remember that part of this is for you, of course. And even if no one ever reads your blog, or even if there's only 20 people who read what you have to say about a book, the process of thinking about a book enough to be able to say something about it really engages you, and you have this final product at the end that you can be proud of no matter what. And it does make sense to me. Of course, I would encourage people to do BookTube as well if they like the video format like I do, but it totally makes sense to me that a lot of readers are introverts. I am technically an introvert, even though I don't seem like one on my channel, and they might be a little bit more likely to gravitate to some sort of written format, be it their own personal blog or some sort of Goodreads review account. And this is a silly reminder that we all need sometimes as you are trying to get out of maybe a reading slump, making your reading more active, achieve some sort of goal that you set for yourself. Remember that this whole conversation about serious or active leisure is not about making yourself better than other people in your own eyes. It's about making your life more fulfilling. I don't think I am better when I read a book and annotate it than someone who is my neighbor who is watching TV. In fact, I need to watch TV sometimes. I need to passively read sometimes and just enjoy the story. Everyone needs that, and not everyone has an equal amount of free time. However, when you do have leisure time, it can be very fulfilling for your life to make it more active. Let me know what you think about making reading a little bit more of a serious or active form of leisure, meaning you're involved with it personally and you're creating some sort of product. Are there other ideas you have that can make the hobby a little bit less passive, just reading the page, and a little bit more active where you're putting yourself into what you're doing? And by commenting on this video, you make your YouTube watching hobby a little bit more active as well. So let me know what you think about the whole concept of serious leisure from Robert Stebbins outside of reading and how it can be applied to reading. Thanks for watching.